I think in terms of contest prep is a totally different animal, especially as you start to approach the show date, right? Like, I'm assuming, yeah. So like, do you find yourself, I mean, everyone's a little bit different, but for you specifically, you have to cut carbs lower and lower as you approach the show?
Exactly. I never go zero carbs. I did. It's crazy. I just had this conversation yesterday. Uh, it's been one time I've gone almost zero carbs. I even went to the point where, you kind of cut the sodium out, cut the sugar out. I even boiled my chicken in distilled water to get all the sodium out.
Hmm.
It was the nastiest thing I ever tasted in my life. It felt like eating styrofoam. And I remember that workout the next day, I had zero pump, zero energy level. It was like these necessary nutrients that your body needs, sodium and sugar. You need a little something, just kind of get you on through. I mean, it was like one of the worst workouts of my life. And I remember
Oh
that, like,
man.
yeah, it was. I was insane. I was so all in at that time. I was boiling all of my food in distilled water to get the sodium out, to get that hard, because I was trying to get that hard, dry look that a lot of natural guys got, and I just, for whatever reason, I just never get that dialed in like that. And it bothered me, and I just, something I just tried. I just kind of, well, like, you know what, let's try this, see how this works. And then no.
So that was definitely a lesson learned, eh?
No, boil your chicken in distilled water to get the sodium out. No, no.
All right. No taken, no taken. Do you work with, or have you worked with someone specifically in the past, like in terms of helping you with your contest prep, or do you do it all on your own?
Dr. Joe, I don't know if you remember Dr. Joe back in the day. And he
Yeah.
still does. Yeah, he was the one guy. I did his show. Matter of fact, when I came back after the band for 5 years, he was his first pro show, and he didn't even know about me. And he was like, "Yo, I think I can take your physique here." And we just kind of worked out a plan, and it was the first time somebody did my diet for me, where I didn't have to worry about, okay, what I should be eating. He just took that part out of it, asked me, what was I eating up to this point, and then he just went with it, and that's when I won the world. And he said, I need to get you under 200 pounds to win the world. He said, you need to carb down, you need to diet down to under 200. He said, if you get that, I promise you're going to win it. And I still have my diary from what night that was that, what, 2010, 2009 and 10. And I showed him, I took a picture. I was like, yo, 197. He's like, we on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So do you think that has a valuable role? It sounds like it really, or it took some weight off your shoulders.
I didn't stress. He just had it. He had it all written out, times, how much, and I didn't even question it because my physique showed it. Because he said, I promise you, you're not eating enough. Because he was asking what I was eating, and I told him what I thought he wanted to hear. You know what I'm saying? He's like, no, I need you to weigh it. He said, I don't want you to eyeball it. Get a scale. And I wasn't even weighing it. I was eyeballing it. And sure enough, I just went to the local store, got me a scale. I started weighing. He said, like I said, you're not eating nearly enough. Yeah.
Wow. I think a lot of competitors kind of go through that, like at least maybe from your era, like they go
Yeah.
through that trial and error in order to see what, right? Because it's evolved, right? The
Yeah, it
practices.
works. Exactly. And I've gotten people like after shows, it's like, what do you do? Are you starving yourself? You hear people backstage hadn't eaten in 2 days. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, I'm just not going to eat. I'm going to get shredded. What?
With
I'm
no
just going
muscle,
to,
with no pump, right?
exactly. You can't even buy a pump at that time. I see you can be stringy. You're not going to get a pump on stage and you can start cramping. No, eat something. I said, I know that seems like it works, but yeah, and that's what you run into, from kind of giving people advice at shows, because they're thinking that I'm half eating, and I'm like, I promise you. Same thing with water. And Joe had me drinking a gallon of water the day of the show, and a lot of people are like, wait a minute, you drink? I'm the only person backstage with a gallon of water, just killing it. And it was like, wait a minute, we're supposed to be cutting water. People like they sipping cups, little caps full of water, and I got the gallon. I was just chugging it. And Joe was like, keep drinking. I'm telling you, just keep drinking, keep drinking. And
That's
I
awesome.
had to buy into it. And he knew that the first time I did a show, he knew exactly. I was doing what I used to do and doing what he was doing, trying to play the middle with it. He said, I already know what you're doing. It's okay. I know the look when I see you, because he come backstage and 15 minutes later, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm not drinking water. Drink the water. He knew when I stopped drinking water. Because I'm thinking, like a lot of competitors, you don't put water in so you don't look smooth out on stage. That's our mindset. And it doesn't work like that. He just took like, you know what? I'm all in next year. I'm all in. And sure enough, that's when I won that world. So see it.
That, I think, the water, the sodium, the carbs, those are things that I think there was like a period where people thought for bodybuilding, especially natural bodybuilding, like that was a no-no before, you know, competing. And that's not the case, right?
It's not. He, like I said, he just did a 360 on all the tribal knowledge that I've gained up to that point. Because I've always heard, you know, you just the last week you just eat fish and quarter piece of potato every hour, 2 or 3 hours, and yada yada yada. And it really, and I looked at those old photos and I can tell. I'm like, man, I was just starving. Just imagine if I'd ate some food, I ate some meat, I ate some steak, and he kept that stuff on my regimen. He's like, yo, you eat steak? I'm like, every day. Like, keep it in there. Don't change it. He said, because you look like this with it. You know, he said, we're not gonna take that out. He said, we're gonna change a couple things here and there, and we're gonna actually let you eat more food. And I was like, cool. To a bodybuilder, you're like, yo, I can eat. He said, that's another thing too, dieting, a happy diet. And it was like one of those first times that I dieted where I didn't feel like I was just, oh my God, here we go with this again type mindset. Yeah, I call it happy diet. It was the best time I've ever had for getting ready for a show.
Do you still implement those practices now, like when you're competing now?
I still got this pamphlet that I got from him, and I still go back to it and thumb through it and always gaining some knowledge from Joe. Joe was like one of those dudes that, man, you talk about insane amount of knowledge. And I'm just the coolest guy too, man. Always cool and very approachable. Heavy compound mixed with an isolation movement and a second basic compound that work different parts. And then I'm just literally, I'm nonstop for about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, that is different from what, at least what's going around these days, where